Shampoo is better. I go on first.
Talking about Billy Madison, like that whole shampoo, that thing, that wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
Like we got the scene, and then I was like, we just let Adam go have fun. And Adam's like, okay, I'm going to try to make Tamra and Tim laugh. And so he loves that. You know, how can I get these two to laugh?
Hi, and welcome back to StudioBinder Academy. I'm Brandon. Today, we're speaking with director Tamra Davis, whose previous work includes The After Party, Billy Madison, Half Baked, 13 the Musical, and many more. Tamra, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, your storied career, you've worked on some of my favorite movies. So I'm very excited to talk to you. To start off with, we want to get your filmmaking story. Can you tell us how you got started, first jobs, kind of the general path you took?
Sure. I know I'm sure everybody's path is so unique and different, and mine as well. I grew up in Hollywood, California. That's kind of like my grandparents are from Hollywood, California. And so when I grew up, I always thought I was going to be an actress because I was like a young girl growing up here in Hollywood in this company town, and it was encouraged. So I took acting classes and things like that. And then there was a certain point where it was like the 80s, late 80s in Hollywood. And I was like, I just don't think this is right for me. And I wanted more control of being a filmmaker and my journey and whatever in this industry. So I had the wild idea that I would be a director, but it was also at a time where there weren't really that many role models for being a female director. But I don't know, my mom was like woman's lib. We could do everything. So I kind of went out and went to, I first got a job being an assistant and at Zoetrope Studios. So I got to work under Francis Ford Coppola, and he told me I should go to film school if I wanted to be a director. So I went to film school, and I went to LA City College, which was the local city college in Los Angeles, and they had a great film department. And I took their course, and it was really fun. And I realized that I had skills. I knew how to tell stories, and people were interested in my stories. And it gave me confidence that, this is something that I'm actually talented with. Sadly, when I got out of film school thinking that I was going to, get my first feature, like some of the guys that were coming out of UCLA and USC, Hollywood really wasn't ready for a young girl at this time. Like they weren't really giving films or any kind of jobs to girls in their 20s. And luckily, this package that I had for this feature that I wanted to make had a music video on it that I had shot myself. And I got a meeting with the record company thinking I was going to be in trouble because I made a video without approval. They said, "How did you do this?" And I had shot it in Super 8, which was kind of this handheld, grainy style. And MTV really hadn't seen that look before. And so I immediately started getting work as a music video director because I had like a unique style. So then I directed videos. And so that's kind of my journey is, from then everything really, came about after that. But yeah, I directed music videos and had a big, big career with that to start.
That is so amazing to hear. I've done many of these interviews, and this is my favorite portion of the interview because you get to see and hear everyone's story, and everyone's story is so different and so inspiring. And for you coming up with, not a lot of female directors and to pave your own path that way is so amazing and it's inspirational. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on your career.
Thank you. Yeah, you kind of need to be pretty intrepid to. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, as far as the role of a director, I'm sure the definition will vary from director to director, but in your opinion, what is the role of a director from pre-production through post?
I just was writing about this recently. A director has two very specific purposes on a feature. One is you're the storyteller. So you have to have the skills and the ability to tell a story. And telling a story using the medium of film is, it's complicated in the fact that you don't really know if it works until it's all done. Like you have to finish it and show it and see what reaction you get from your audience. And that's what actually makes you a filmmaker, is making it, finishing it, showing it, and seeing if it worked or not. There was a sign I used to see in my neighborhood growing up. Somebody on their car said, "Miracle Films. If it's a good film, it's a miracle." And I was like, yeah, I totally get that. Because you don't really know until you see it. Yeah. So finishing a film and showing it, that's what makes you, and being a storyteller, that's a filmmaker. But there's another really incredible aspect about being a filmmaker that also requires you to build skills, and that is being a good leader. And so using the same skills that somebody who is a leader in management or in other departments, those are very similar skills. It's the ability to inspire a team, to be enthusiastic, to motivate people, to get the best performance out of people. So there's skills that are required as well, and how to manage a crew's time, dealing with conflict. There's so many other things. So it's not just being a good storyteller, which is awesome. You also have to be a really good, and what I found with having a career so long is that I'm a really good leader as well. And that's also really effective and important part of my job.
I'm so glad you went into the qualities of a leader and in turn being a good director, because that was my next question, is like, what qualities could one have to be an effective director? And you nailed it. So thank you. You're doing my job for me. Now, you've worked in many different mediums, from music videos, documentaries, to everything in between. How does your process change from medium to medium?
It's weird because it doesn't really change. Like there's so many aspects that are exactly the same. So a large part of it is my excitement and enthusiasm on a project. So you really have to really want to just dive into that project so that you're excited to think about it constantly. So I don't take projects unless I really love them. I have to be excited to want to talk to that producer and that writer today, or research it and do all these things where I don't even feel like I'm doing a job anymore. These are things that I enjoy doing and I love to do, because when you're doing it, sometimes you're on a project for like a year. And if you don't love that project or love that actor or love that script or love that topic, you're not bringing your best to the job. So I always try to choose something that I'm a huge fan of myself, that I just love. So my passion is authentic. So I'm speaking from my heart and being driven by what my internal guide says. And so that keeps my excitement for the job. But it's all kind of very similar. How you prepare for the job, your vision for the job, how you prepare for a shoot, how you manage yourself when you're on the set and treat your crew members, your vision for that day, making your day, all those things. It doesn't matter if I'm on a music video or a TV show or a feature. They're almost all kind of the same job. Like they're kind of the same. Like my enthusiasm and my support for this project stays the same. And I mean, I used to find that all the time in music videos, because sometimes I would do a video that was like $20,000, like no money. And then I would do like a video the next week and it was like $200,000. And it wasn't like, I'm only going to give you the cheap version. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you do direct differently depending upon the budget. Like you still, even if you have like a ton of money, you never have enough money. You're always like, how do we do this creatively? And that's what I love as a filmmaker, is you're still always coming up with creative ways to tell a story based on the situation that you're in. And that is always going to be the same.
Excellent. Now, when it comes to choosing your projects, are there specific things that you're looking out for?
Yeah, very much so. I've really realized that how the job I do and the topic I'm on has a direct impact on my emotional life. And I'm at the place where I don't want to sit in an alley in the middle of the night and it's raining and I'm like and I'm filming somebody being like assaulted or murdered, I don't want to be there. Like, I admire David Lynch's work, but I could never spend that amount of time in a dark world like that, because I live in a happy, whatever, that world. I like living in that world. So I definitely choose things based on what world do I want to live in? Like, do I want to be on that set all day long for, whatever? Do I want to be, because that whole world, you live and breathe it when you're the director. Like, that becomes my dreams, my existence, my every waking hour is that topic. So I choose those very wisely now, because I do realize that's the world that I'm living in.
That totally makes sense. Like you said, you might be spending a year in this world, and to surround yourself in a dark place is going to put you in a dark place, literally and figuratively. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, having the story set in advance in scripted form versus a documentary where it's unscripted, how do you approach that?
It's like, in the past, I've done a couple documentaries, and I had like a general idea, but then I just went out and filmed all the interviews, and then I went back into the edit room and really bang it out in the edit room of what this documentary is about. Right now, I'm currently working on a documentary, and it's different because it's a documentary that's already sold. So it's for Paramount Plus, so they know what they are looking for. And then on this one, I had to write the entire script. So every single act, everything is written out. And it's kind of really fun because I'm kind of following that. And even so, there's things that come up in a documentary that you didn't realize, or new facts, and they will inform the ultimate piece. But it's been so exciting and an interesting way to work, to really be doing a documentary based upon a written out concept that I wrote and pitched and sold. And and I'm kind of following that. And I have like an entire crew. I have 3 editors working right now, and I have a story editor and a story producer and researcher, and every interview is like being transcribed so you can like read it. And so it's a very different way than other documentaries that I've done. And I have to say, I really like it, because I actually have an end date. I have final cut dates. It's nice. And so it's a nice way to make a documentary. So I really like this process.
Very nice. Very nice. Could you share the name of the documentary, or is that still under wraps?
The name we don't know yet. We're doing title clearance now, but the topic is on boy bands. So,
okay.
I go from the Beatles to K-pop.
Oh, wow. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. It's so, and again, I asked myself during this strike, what will I not mind looking at all day long? And I'm like,
hey, it's not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice. I'm like, these songs, they make you happy. There's nothing more beautiful than watching young talent singing and dancing, and kind of like find out why we love that so much. Yeah.
Definitely. I can't wait to watch it.
It's so fun.
Now, next up, I'd like to discuss your collaborative process. When it comes to working with assistant directors, how do you usually approach working with them through pre-production and post-production?
An assistant director is like half my body. Like, they are my right arm, my buddy throughout the thing. So I tend to get very, that's like, we're hand in hand. And I think that what I really like about an AD is I have a lot of experience. Like, I've worked on a lot of television shows, and there's very little that you could give me that I'll be like, there's no way I could do it. Like, I'll figure out a way to do it. Like, I really am good with that. It might be a different way than you imagined or created. Like, part of my job is how do we shoot this? We have these many scenes to do this day. This is your time, this, whatever. All that is, I work hand in hand with my AD. So usually an AD, before they work on they give you their first pass of a schedule. And so they've worked it out and there's so many factors that are way deeper than what I am thinking of, what I think I can do in a day, because they're working on an actor's availability,
Mm.
date, when a location is available, where, like they're working on all that. So they work on a schedule and then they show it to me. And then and that's why having a lot of experience is good, or, to be able to look at a day and see I can make that day, or you know what, that scene is a little bit more complicated than it just reads as. I'm going to need more time on that scene, or this scene, it's actually two people. This is how I want to shoot it. The producer, they know this is only going to take me 2 hours. So like I'll let an AD, and what they also do is they not only give you what they think the day should look like, they tell you how many hours they think it should take to shoot those scenes. So I don't like to tell them, if you're the AD and you give me a scene and you put it down there that it's going to take 4 hours to shoot that scene, I'm going to say like, okay, give me like, unless I see a benefit of like taking it away, I'm going to go with what the AD says. Because sometimes the AD is on a television show and I'm doing their 4th episode or 5th episode. So they know what the crew is capable of doing. So I'm going to use their good advice. I'm not going to be like, I could do that in 3 hours. If you think your crew takes 4 hours to do that, I'm going to listen to you. So I really respect, but I'm also sometimes I'll see like, I don't think you realize, but you have this actress and you have her in this scene and then you have her in this scene, but she has like a whole wardrobe change. And I don't want to, my actress, she's never going to be ready I'll have my camera and lights ready before that actress is ready with her change. Could we do something in between so that I'm not rushing her and she feels she has plenty of time to change her outfit, put her hair, whatever. So we're not making that actress stressed out by rushing, because that takes time to go back to your trailer and change. So sometimes I'll notice that, or, oh, you know what? On this scene, I actually have a camera position on a crane, so it's going to take me a minute to get that set up. Or maybe we need a third camera body and they could put that on the crane in the meantime. So I'm really getting into the specifics when we work out each day, knowing the equipment I need, what are the little things that might take longer. Oh, it looks like this is right next door, but actually we're going to need to move in a cart to get from there to there, whatever, all those little things. So the AD and myself, I work incredibly close with, and I really use them as my voice on the set. I've learned now that it's, if there's something's going slow or fast, or not fast, it's because it's going slow. It's the AD's job to rush the people. It's not my job. It's their job. So I might say to the AD, I feel like we're really losing time here, and let them work the crew and figure out how to move the crew faster and stuff like that. So my AD and myself, I love it. I mean, I've been around to where you're just like, I work on that schedule, because usually they have you sign like a thing, like with like I say I can make this schedule. When I sign that paper, I really have to feel that I could make that schedule. So it's really close, hand in hand.
Absolutely. And do you feel the relationship with your assistant director varies in the different mediums, or is it pretty much consistent?
It's pretty much consistent, like the same. Yeah. The AD relationship on a feature is the same relationship on a TV show. And actually on my documentary, I don't have an AD. It's just myself there being conscious, like, wait a minute, how much more time do I have on this interview? Go into overtime if I go, lunch breaks, all that still matters. So I am very conscious of time. Like, if anything, I am conscious of time. When I know that I only have 5 more minutes left to shoot, like that, I am very conscious of that. Like I don't want the actors to know that I'm looking at the clock going, okay, because if I go that minute over, it goes into overtime, and that really has an impact on the entire production if I'm in overtime or whatever that is. Or I'll ask like, hey, I don't know if we're going to get it before this, or we might, I think if we get this before lunch, it's really going to put us in a better position. Can we take a meal penalty? Like, I am working hand in hand And obviously, no matter what the AD and I do, and I'm sure you're probably going to ask me this question next, it doesn't matter if the DP can't do it and isn't working right there with you. Like the AD and I could have all these great plans and be like, we're going to be on time, and my AD takes 3 hours to light something, it's not going to work. So there's a plan that I work on, that plan with my AD, and it's like rock solid, but that plan only works if now the next department is capable of doing, the other departments are capable of aligning with that.
That makes sense. And you did nail it. That was my next question. What's your ideal working relationship with the cinematographer or DP?
Again, like that's part of your managerial skills and your leadership skills, is your ability to work well with others. And also, it's not only that, it's getting the best performance out of that person. And so you also have to figure that everybody has the best way that they like to work. Some people are visual, some people are, really want to talk about it. Some people you have to stand there. Everybody has their way. So part of being a good leader, is being open to seeing how that person works, what's their best way, and how can I get the best performance out of that DP. So I work really closely with the DP. Everything from, here are some images of how I want this scene to look like. Here's some, when I talk about a close-up, it's like, I love these close-ups. Like I have a huge book that I usually come with of photos and pictures and whatever. And so if the DP is available for prep, like we're watching movies, we're hanging out, we're like working hand in hand about this look of how we want to achieve it. And a lot of times I'm referencing things. So I bring in a lot of imagery to reference. And then, when you're working on the set, it's figuring out how does that DP work best, and really involving them in the day-to-day production. It's like, if I go to a location and we're like, okay, it's the first shot, where are we going to look? What are we going to do? If I have this idea, like I want to master this way, and usually you just go ahead and you do that. But if I talk to the DP and they say, you know what, Tamara, I know that that's how you want to master this way. The problem is that we're going to be there at 8:00 in the morning and the light's not going to be good. And so if you shoot you can block it so everyone knows what they're going to do. But if we start in this direction and then come back to your master when the light is perfect, it's going to look amazing, and I won't spend 2 hours lighting it to look great, because in 2 hours it's good. So I work hand in hand with them I want them to tell me that. It's like, you know what, Tamara, I really think that if you shoot at noon, you're going to have horrible lighting overhead, and we're going to have to put a whole fly trap over the whole scene, and that's going to take this much time, whatever. Or if we shoot this now, we won't have to deal with that. So your DP is your best friend in working that out. They're also amazing for while you're shooting. So a lot of this has been worked out beforehand. So, and also the AD is involved in that as well. But sometimes while you're shooting and you're showing them a blocking of how you thought you wanted to block it, I've had some of my favorite DPs are like, Tamara, I know you're have the blocking like this, but if you tell that actor here to step a few feet to the left, you just saved yourself a setup. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. And sometimes an actor will be like, you know what, I don't feel like I would stand there. And then you might be like, okay, well, that's okay. I can do your setup here, but it might mean that we're going to go 1 hour to 2 hours extra. Are you okay with that? The actor sometimes is like, yes, I feel like I would stand here. Or the actor might be like, you know what? I don't want to stand there anymore. I'm totally fine. So it becomes all of us are involved in this scheme. It's not just like I've got this secret and I'm making you all do this. It's like, oh, wow, that really does have a big impact, So we all work really close together when we're coming up with that, because, we don't have all day to shoot these things. We're on a time schedule, and sometimes that time schedule is based on a sun that doesn't wait. It's like the sun is setting. You don't have an extra 10 minutes. You don't have an extra 5 minutes. That sun's going down. or a kid.
Definitely.
Kids all the time. And it's like, look, that kid's done in like 1 minute. Like, it doesn't matter what you have an idea for.
Oh
I think
yeah,
my
yeah, because
biggest
there are
thing
restrictions.
oh my God, so many restrictions. Yeah. And I think the thing that I'm constantly trying to work through with the DP is sometimes I find that it's like, you took 2 hours to light this set. It looks amazing. But now I only have 15 minutes to shoot the scene with my actors. And we're rushing acting and performing because the crew took so long to get it ready for us to shoot. So I feel like sometimes it's that negotiation of like, I don't want to just rush my performance because we took so long in setup. So I really want to make sure those things become balanced.
And when it comes to working with production designers, is it as close as with the ADs and cinematographers?
Yes. And I love when my production designer and my DP and everybody, again, like then your circle goes one step wider. Your production designer again is so hugely important, not only for the look of your show, but also if a set isn't ready or if like, a window isn't in the right place or furniture, all those elements have an ability to get your setup in the time that you need it or delay you because, oh my God, this door doesn't open and there's no way we can get in and out of the room without this door opening. So everybody's working together, or the DP is like, because the production designer, you put a yellow background, we're painting the set yellow. Well, the DP has to know that because that affects his lighting or her lighting. Also, the wardrobe needs to know that because they don't want to put somebody wearing yellow against yellow again. So everybody, we're all communicating and working together. And yeah, your production designer is again somebody that's like you work incredibly close to because they will help, also provide the look to the show. They're one of the huge elements to providing that. And when you can work with a production designer that helps you with those locations, finding the location, helping you, with your sets, the ease of shooting, you all really work together as a team.
And you hear it all the time. Filmmaking is one of the greatest collaborative mediums, and I mean, this goes to show it. Everything you're explaining, it's just it's like a family that you're coming together and building this amazing project.
Yeah. And I love when my production designer and my DP really get along great because, they're the kind of the visual, they're working on bringing out the visual and giving me the best visual palette. And so I get really excited when they also have a really good working relationship. So it's not only what the things, all the stuff that I'm asking them for, it's then they work on it on their own. And I trust them to do that. And I'm so excited when they come to me and they're like, oh my God, look at this. We thought this would be really interesting. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So you're enabling them and giving them agency and action so that they have, like, they know that you trust them and you believe in their creative ability, and that allows them to be creative and come to you with interesting solutions and ways to see things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it goes back. I always think about, you hire people because you think they're capable of doing their job. And so whenever you hire them to do the job, let them do the job. so it makes sense.
What's the thing of
Now,
like,
next up. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say that as when you go to film school or whatever, I know pretty well how to almost make a whole thing by myself. There's whatever, I know how to film something. I made short films and things all by myself. So I know I could do it on my own. But if I hire a DP, I realize that DP is better than me. Like if
Yes.
I'm not a DP, like they're better than me. And you really see it. Like I'll sometimes go on location scouts and I'll be standing with my director of photography and I'll take a picture of, oh, this looks so cool. This is my location. Click, click. And then my DP will come and take a picture and I'll look at that picture and I'll be like, oh my God, like it looks so much better than my photograph. I'm like, how did you see that angle? How did you see that? And it's because that's their job. They're good at it. They're there because they're talented and they're professional and they are better than you. And so I don't have any
Definitely.
insecurity about that. Like, I'm like, thank you for being better than me. Like, and I want you to be better than me. Like, because that's part of the job. So I never feel insecure about that. I actually feel I want to give them that confidence that I rely on them, because I really do
Hmm.
admire them and rely on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think having the humility to say they're better at their job than I am at their job is key. Well, next up, I would like to jump into the stages of production. As
Mhm.
far as pre-production goes, what does your general process look like?
I start with the images. Like, I start with kind of becoming an expert on whatever the topic is that I'm researching, or that I'm going to tell a story about. So I go really deep. I go into um yeah, what is there anything is there any books, are there any books I could read about this topic? What's the visual world? Like, how what can I find on the internet that looks like what I want to show? What other, so I'll look for images, then I'll look for movies. What other scenes in movies look like this? And I really start to put together a visual book of what the film should look like. So, and it's not only helpful for myself, it's really helpful when I have meetings, because I can then show my director of photography, like, I want it to wide like this kind of like, I want it to feel like this, or I love this overhead shot, or I love this lighting here, like that kind of thing. And it also really helps me when I'm explaining things to my producers. Like, this is the movie that I want to make. This is visually what it looks like. If you go back and look at the visuals, my visual book and the movie, it looks like the movie. So there's no mystery of like, God, what is she doing? What kind of film is she going to make? What are her colors? Or what are my movie or whatever it is looks like my visual presentation. It's almost like you'll find shots that are like, if somebody were to look like, oh my God, that's exactly your shot. Like, most people wouldn't know it because they're not going to be, but if you look, you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly where she got that from. And, but by the time it goes through you and your production designer and your DP and the set and the actors, it looks like something completely different, but you were inspired by something in the beginning, and then it gets created into a whole new thing. So I'm not trying to take it exactly.
Mhm.
This is the idea. This is where we're going. Cause it's like, it's a visual. You don't really know what it is until we both look at it and go, yes, that's too dark. Oh no, that's perfect. That's the level. Yeah.
Now, having worked in TV, how do you approach a script that may be your vision, whereas a script that you've been given to visualize yourself? How do you approach that? How do you put your
I
own
mean,
flair into it? I guess is what I'm asking.
in television, I love working in television. It's so fun. I mean, it was really great going from music videos and features where it's really all about your vision and that, to walking onto a set that it's somebody else's vision and look and
Hmm.
feel and show. So in one sense, and I've worked at coming on to shows that exist, like Grey's Anatomy and Dead to Me, things like that. But I've also gone on to shows where I've either done the pilot or some of the first few episodes where they're trying to find the show still. And so there's elements that might have been established during the pilot, but the characters are still trying to find exactly who they are, or they're trying to make sure the crew can make this a crazy ambitious schedule, and they're trying to figure out, how we can make this show possible, what the look is. But you don't want to like watch Grey's Anatomy and all of a sudden be take out of the show like, this doesn't look like, why does it look like this? This isn't Grey's Anatomy. Like, it's part of
Hmm.
that show is that you study how that show looks. So you want to make it look like their show. They're not looking to hire you to give you something else. Like, so first, but they do want you to come in and make your day, like kind of like be a professional and make sure that if you have 8 days to shoot that show, you finish your job in 8 days. And not only that, your job is to give them the best version of their show. So that's what your job is not just to give them an episode that came in on time, whatever, because that happened to me when I was a producer director on a show, and my producers were like, oh my God, he's finishes early every day. And then I got into the edit room and I was like, the shots look terrible. This looks like a 70s TV show, medium, close up, 2-shot, close up. I was like, yeah, he made his day, because it's horrible looking. There wasn't one shot that was gorgeous or designed or beautiful. So they're looking for you to also show us a new angle of the hospital, show us a new way to see something, so they want you to come in and give them something that's unique and beautiful and visual. And if that's something that you're really good at, like, oh, I'm really good at moving the camera, or giving you, making your show look big and expensive, or, making your show, whatever. So those are things that you can add. You're not trying to make it look different. You're just giving them sometimes more production value to their show. The other thing is, there's, you come into working with different actors. So there's sometimes you're working with new actors on a show. So you might get a performance out of somebody that was unexpected and really fun. Or, sometimes I come in because I'm a comedy director. I can get like comedy from your actors. Sometimes I come in because they're doing a dance sequence and they need somebody who does that. And so you also have to kind of come in and work with these actors. And sometimes the actors are like, I've been doing this for 4 seasons. I really don't need you to come in and tell me how to do this character. So to really figure out like where you can say something. And some actors are like, I'm excited to have somebody direct me. Please direct me. Like, this is fun. Like, finally somebody could come in and they want to play, and they want you to say something to them, and let me try it this way. And then they feel at the end of the day that they got something out of their day, and they felt like they pushed themselves. And, so they're looking sometimes for a new director to come in and kind of like inspire them and talk to them. But I've definitely had it where I've come on and they're like, this person really doesn't want, they're like not looking for you to whatever it is. Like, you just have to be aware that everybody has different ways to work. And my job as a director coming in is to get the best performance from you. And you might be a cast of 6, and all those 6 people have a different way to receive direction. A word that might work for actress A might make actress B totally stop working and be like, what? I don't understand. What does that mean? Like, so every single actor approaches it differently. So that's part of your skill, is figuring out and observing, how does that person work? What's the best way? How do I get the best performance out of that person?
Definitely. It's, having myself, I came up through the acting world, and seeing directors give notes to actors and seeing how the actors receive those notes was so interesting to me. I sat back on set a lot of the times and just kind of took notes, because I love direction as well. And so I love when a director can talk to me and just like really relay what they're wanting from me. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. And some actors are like, I got this, and then it's like, sometimes it might take like 2 or 3 days before, and then I've made every one of my days and everything's looking amazing. And then they're like, you know what, maybe, could you tell me something? Could you, and then they're like, I got their respect, and now they want my direction. But sometimes I have to earn that respect. And I understand that. I admire that. I'm okay with that.
Definitely. Now, I wanted to backtrack a little bit. When you were talking about, say, you took on an episode of Grey's Anatomy, and they're looking for you to, maybe photograph something differently or show the hospital in a different perspective. What's your strategy in storyboarding or visualizing that script?
All different ways. Like, I think like sometimes it just depends. It's like, I try to really figure out who is that, whose perspective am I looking for in that scene? Like, I approach things like an actor a lot of times, and a viewer. So it's like, whose scene is this? So whose perspective is this? So a lot of times I'll look at it in that way. I also will look at a set And I look at the set the same way I'll look at an actor and be like, what's the best angle on this set? So I'll walk into a set and be like, you know what, this is the beautiful angle on this set. Like, and talk to the DP about that too. Like, oh, there's a window back there, you get great lighting, or, this. So I want the best view of that set. So I'll stand there and be like, oh yeah, this is the hero shot. So that becomes my master. That becomes where I'll stage all my action based on that, because that's the most gorgeous looking thing. And I'll block actors to give me that beauty of that set. And then I'll work, and then I'll know that, you know what, you don't have all the time in the world. So I'll block actors so that they work within, like, oh, I only have 3 hours to do that. Well, and I'll block my actors based on what my time situation is, so that I'll master everything from a certain direction, knowing that it's going to take like 1 to 2 hours to light and set it for that direction. How much can I do in that direction? So when I rehearse a scene, I took it from this other camera person. I photograph while I'm blocking what those shots are. And so I'll be like, master, I'm going to need a close up here. I need this person's reaction. I need that. And I'll look at it, and then I'll be like, oh, and then there's the reverse, da, 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 da. Then I'll go back to my seat and I'll look at all my shots, and I'll be like, these 6 shots are all in this direction. So we'll get everything in this direction before I turn around. Because I mean, like, who would ever shoot everything in this direction, turn around, shoot over there, and then come back and shoot there? That's, you know what I mean? Like, those are 101, but I see people making that mistake all day long. But it's because I really know as much as possible prep wise, and even like up to that very moment, right? When you're doing your rehearsals, when you're blocking and you're coming up with exactly what setups you need to tell that story, get your big ones first, because you run out of time and you might be like, oh, I don't need this anymore. This was a bonus shot. But you don't want to be doing that when they're like, we're done with this scene. We got to move on. So I think, like, yeah, the prep is huge on those TV shows and also in features. I have a very, very clear idea of how to shoot it.
Okay. All right. And those photographs that you mentioned that you take, do you include those in your storyboard, or is that just a reference image that you build off of?
Well, they're not really in a storyboard, because sometimes I do work with storyboards a lot, but usually when it's an action sequence, or something that's like complicated, a dance sequence or an action sequence, because then you break it up a lot of times into so many different pieces, and things are, sometimes it's stunt people do this shot, or this is a special effects shot, or this is a shot that everybody's involved in. And, so action sequences, I often work with storyboards. But I also, when I take pictures at locations in pre-production, those are kind of like storyboards, but sometimes I'll go out with like a couple extras or PAs and get shots, and they kind of work as a quasi storyboard. But it's when I do those like pictures, that's usually right when I'm blocking, right when I'm about ready to shoot. And so they're not really for storyboards. They're literally, we just did the blocking, the actors now go back into hair and makeup to do their finals, and the DP we're shooting, we're putting pieces of tape on the ground. We're about to shoot. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about working with actors, and you've had the opportunity to work with some of the greatest comedians of our time, from Adam Sandler and Billy Madison to Dave Chappelle in Half Baked. When it comes to improvisation, how much, if any, improv happens on set, and how do you go about facilitating that and capturing that?
I know I love working on comedies. There's nothing better than spending you know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
From before, it's like to spend your day laughing. I mean, is there anything better? And you have to be in a good mood to laugh. Like, you can't be in a bad mood and have a horrible day and be like, okay, I have to be a happy person and be in a good mood and be ready for laughter, because those laughs have to be authentic. You can't be like, it wasn't funny when we shot it and it's going to
Mhm.
suddenly be funny in the edit room. That doesn't happen. It's like, it's got to be funny. And that's what's been so nice about television. Also, like the last show I did before the strike was the After Party, and I got to work with
Oh.
so many amazing comedians on that, with like Tiffany Haddish
Yeah, it
and
was a
so many
great
amazing,
show. I
amazing
love it.
comedians. Oh my God, so fun. So so with comedy, you shoot the script. Like, that's number one. Like, that's my job. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm in post-production in the edit room and it's not working. And then I
Right.
look at the script and the producers look at the script and they're like, it's not working because you didn't shoot what's written. Like, we spent years working on that script and working on the whatever that joke was in the script. If it was on the paper and I didn't get that joke or that whatever what they said, he drops the bag or whatever that is, that's my fault. So I make sure that I get whatever's written on that script. And if I don't get it, I want to make sure my script supervisor tells me, or I get an okay from a writer, like, oh, that's okay. We just wrote that. That's not important. Okay. So I make sure that I cover what's written.
Okay.
Then after I've covered what's written and we got what the script said, now if we have time, let's have fun. Let's go back and let's just shoot. Let's just go for fun. Whatever you want to do, let's have fun with it. So then you go back in and you open it back up again and you let the actors riff and you let them have those moments where they kind of ad lib and add to it. And usually you're recording there, or the AD, somebody's taking notes, you're my script supervisor, because now I got to get the reactions on the other side of whatever just happened. So, so I love doing that. And I've worked really closely with comedians to make sure that they feel that, some of them are incredible with ad-libbing, and you want to make sure you have that. You want to make sure that you got any laughter, any joke, anything that could be possible to get on that day, you covered yourself. And we all laughed. Like, we made every scene as funny as we could make every scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that.
You want people to rush your take. I'm like, if the boom operator is laughing so hard that he dropped the whatever, like the boom drops down, like, I want that. I want everybody to laugh so hard. Yeah.
And from all of your experiences, do you have one moment that was just so memorable to you, and in terms of an improv that one of the actors might have done?
I mean, I think like one that's easy, talking about Billy Madison, like that whole shampoo, that thing, that wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
Like, we got the scene, and then I was like, we just let Adam go have fun. And Adam's like, okay, I'm going to try to make Tamra and Tim laugh. And so he loves that, how can I get these two to laugh? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, do you have a method for any directors out there working with actors in trying to get the best performance out of someone?
I think like trying to know who they are, know their past work, so that sometimes you might be able to be like, how you did that then, or, I really liked the tone of that, so that you're referring to something that they're familiar with. There's also understanding that some actors, they want a big explanation, and some actors don't. They just want an adjective. And so it takes time to learn that. Like, on a TV show, a lot of times I'll sit in my prep time and just watch the people work on the episode before me, so I can kind of like figure some of those things out. I'll talk to people that they've worked with before and be like, how does that person like to work? Do they, sometimes I do my research. And then just being intuitive, and that's part of like being a director, is finding out what are those intuitions. Does that person, are they better on their, one size doesn't fit all. Some actors are like, you better have that camera rolling because and whatever, they're the best in their first or second take. And there's other actors that are like, you know what, it takes them time to warm up. They're really only going to hit their marks third or fourth, fifth take. So that means don't start on that person. Start on the other person so that by the time the cameras are turned around, you're on them and they're warmed up and they're happy. A lot of times when it's a lead, I'll talk to them and I'll say, "Hey, do you want to go first or do you want me to shoot whatever?" So that they feel that they're involved. Because some actors might be like, "You know what? I don't have this scene yet. Shoot the other thing first." Or some actors might be like, "I've been working on this scene all night. Please, I got to do it. Like, let me have my first hit at it." So I really I want to work with them and get them involved and let them know that they have agency and they have also I want their participation because I want the best performance out of them. Making sure they feel the clothes fit them right, that they're happy with their wardrobe. If the actor puts on a costume and they don't feel that that costume represents the character they're playing, they're not going to, they're going to be hindered by it. And then there's another thing that they put something on and all of a sudden it's like, I'm the character in this outfit. And it's like, yes. So I want that confidence. I don't want to put you in something because whatever. And now feel awkward because you think your arms look whatever and nobody else sees that but you, but that's hindering your performance. So that's affecting my work. So all of this stuff, you want to have that relationship so that we're working together on it. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's such great advice. Such great. So anybody out there working with actors, know the person, do your research, and be intuitive, open, and communicative.
Yeah, and know that they're all different. They work different ways. So the one thing that might have worked for that actor may not work for this other one. They might, yeah.
As far as coverage goes, is there one of your projects that was more challenging to cover than the others?
Coverage. I mean, I feel like, coverage is really important because in the edit room, you have to have stuff. You have to have material. And it's not enough to just have the bare necessity. You need options, and you really see that when you're in the edit room. And also you see that it's not only that you want options. When you're working in television, the editor does their cut. Then, I'm sure everybody knows this, then the director does their cut. Then the director walks away. And now the producers go in and now the producers get their cut. Then the studio comes in and the studio gets their cut, and then the network gets in and the network gets their cut. So I might have been happy and I got I got the performance I needed from my actor and here's my cut and I handed it in. Well, I didn't realize that coming up in episode 6, this person's having an affair, and they won't tell me that because I'm not supposed to know this future, but I happen to have gotten in take 3 a performance of that person where they smiled in that area. And now they use that because I gave my producers some choices, or, oh, you know what? They looked at the episode and they realized when they put the whole episode together, or episode 2 wasn't really that funny. And the network said, you know what? We need to add more humor. They want choices. So it's like, if I give you this take and it's exactly what we said we wanted, sometimes it's really nice in the edit room to also have an option and a choice. And that's what, as a producer, they love when they can go through your footage and be like, wow, she gave me this option, but she also gave me this option. So giving your producers choices is huge. So you didn't just get it, you gave them a choice. And that's like in the edit room, sometimes you don't know until you see the whole thing put together. You thought like, oh man, she's supposed to be really serious here. And then you look at it and you're like, oh my God, she's too serious. Do you have anything where she played this a little lighter? And if you didn't have that choice, like it's bad. Like you really it's hard to manufacture that. So yeah, a coverage means like you not only get exactly what you need to cut the scene, your masters, your close-ups, your 2 shots, your all those things. And it's not like hose it down and shoot every option. Like I work like an editor in my head. My editors always tell me that, like, they know exactly how I saw going in Like I've designed every shot like, oh, this is an in, this is my way out. Like, so they know how I visually see my in and my out. They also see, oh, she wants, I have it, they want, you can see my coverage is this. So I have it, it's very well designed. And you really make sure that every actor is covered, every line is covered. Sometimes you don't need to cover close-ups on everything. You can get in a 2-shot, but your job as a director is to make sure all those lines in your script are covered on camera, and you've covered them, and you've given options, and it looks beautiful.
I think that's so important to hear for especially upcoming filmmakers, because, going in when you're just starting, you don't know, am I overstepping in shooting this other option? But to have that option in the edit room, I can see from this perspective is just phenomenal, because you can almost change the story in the editing room at that point.
If you're running out of time, if you're like supposed to be done with that scene at 2 p.m. and you want to give some options, you might need approval. Like if it's like I was supposed to be done at 2 and I'm like, oh, I want to give you another option. Like the writer producer has the final say. A lot of times I'll be like, do you want any options on this scene? If I could do one more take and give you some more choices here. I try to also get them involved in that so that I'm not the arbiter of the fact that we're about to go into overtime, because I gave you options. So my options have to be within the allotted time that the AD said we needed to do that scene. So I've worked that in. I'm not going to go into overtime giving you options unless you've asked me for that. I also want to make sure that if I've covered the scene the way I thought the scene should be covered, every time I move on, I look over to my writer and producer and be like, did I get it? Are you okay? Can we move on? Thumbs up. So I make sure that I have a visual, verbal communication with my writer producer who is going to be in the edit room with that stuff, that they also feel like they got the scene and I can move on. If we got the scene and we have time and we have options, everybody's happy. But I don't want to, and I also make it that if they're like, you know what, could you give me this angle? Like, I know you didn't have it in your thing. And I'd be like, yes, I can totally get that. It will run us over a little bit. I'll try to make it up on the next scene. But if they want that scene, I want to make sure that they can get it, like, that because they want it. But also I want to make sure that if we get that might run us into overtime. And I want them to take that responsibility as well, to be like, okay, it is actually really important. We do really need this. And if it means that we're going to go an hour over or, go take a lunch penalty, I want them to participate in that. The same thing is like, I don't want a DP to all of a sudden give, like, I'll sometimes look and I'll be like, that wasn't on my shot list. I don't need that crazy low angle shot where you put the camera down there. And now I'm running into my next scene. I didn't need that shot. Approve that shot with me before you put me into running my schedule. I'm running over schedule, because let me make that decision. Don't just give me some crazy angle that I didn't need because you really liked it. Let's make that a conversation and make sure that we're all in agreement that that's a great shot, and let's get it, because it's going to take us an hour to get it. And it's not what we thought we needed, but it's gorgeous. I want us all to make that decision.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it goes back to, the collaborative process, the communication, just making sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, on many productions, there's a second unit. For those who may not know, could you describe the role of a second unit, and then in turn how you typically use a second unit?
Yeah, like I love second units. I love them. And sometimes there's a second unit director, and sometimes I'm the second unit director. So I've definitely worked on shows where there's no way we can do it all in our schedule. And I'm the kind of the kooky person that sometimes I'll have, second unit means you're not using a team. That means like my first, usually the stars and they're not part of second unit. Usually it means like we need an insert on this book. So second unit is setting it up in another room, and then I'll go over and take a look and okay it, and then and then I go back to first unit and they run that shot. That's like a classic second unit, you know. So other times second unit is like they're going to go out and get me Hollywood Boulevard shots. And I don't need to be there. Just go out and shoot Hollywood Boulevard. Spend the whole day out there, second unit, filming all this stuff. I gave them an idea of what I wanted, but they go out and the second unit gives me, the car driving down the street, like with fake people inside, whatever. It's like, so you give them a list of all the stuff you need. And a lot of times I'm not there for that. Sometimes I am there and I love doing second unit. That's super fun. But or sometimes my AD gets a second unit director credit and they can go out and shoot some of those things or shoot some action, So a second unit can be great. And a lot of times you get away with like things where you just, to have an entire first unit crew stand around to get an insert on the book is a waste of first unit's time. So it really can help to just like set it up in a corner of where you're shooting and just grab it and pop in and out and do things like that. So second unit, hand in hand, it could really help you get a lot of these pieces of coverage that are hard for first unit to get. And but you're very involved in it and you're telling them exactly what you want and they go out and get it.
And when it comes to scheduling the separate units, does that fall onto the AD whenever they're creating that shooting schedule?
Yeah. The AD controls everything that we're shooting. So sometimes it's scheduled, within your 5 days that you're shooting your thing or your 8 days, you're shooting second unit. Sometimes it happens that they do, you're shooting your show. We're doing a second unit day in a couple weeks because episode 2 and 3 also had a bunch of second units. So they're going to hire a crew and they're going to clean up and do all the second unit that day. And so you give them a list of, I need an insert on the watch. I need an insert on an exterior shot. I need this. So you give them your list of your second unit shots. Sometimes they invite you to, or you need to be there for those shots and you make yourself available. And other times they just handle it and you've given them your list. But the AD schedules that, and that's why it's the AD that schedules it, because sometimes if it's a feature, it's within your schedule. But sometimes on a TV show, the AD might schedule those second unit shots during episode 5. And and a lot of times if it's not involving the main unit, I don't know if DGA means that I have to direct. I don't think I have to direct second unit. So, but if it's anything that has to do with a reshoot or an insert or whatever having to do with the main actor and main unit, you have to be there, even if it's like your episode's done. They just, they need to reshoot something. DGA requires them to have you do it or sign off and say, oh, you know what, I'm not available. I'm on something else. You guys can do it for me.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know. This is such great information because this isn't, readily available information for just anyone. So, for a filmmaking channel like this is such valuable information. So thank you. Now, as filmmakers, I'm sure everyone knows not everything goes to plan. Do you have any experiences that you could tell us about where you've had to involve some creative problem solving? What happened and how it was resolved?
Honestly, I feel like every day things don't go as planned. So you know what I mean? Like it's always that, if something bad can happen, it does. So I think that every single day you're given, there's a thing that's like, you're like, oh my God, this didn't happen. So even like on the after party, I did the finale. I did one episode where it was just Tiffany's episode. And then I did the finale. I had this huge, beautiful plan, how to shoot a certain scene. One of my actresses has COVID. So now your whole thing goes out to whatever. And now I have to shoot the scene without that person, one of the main characters. And all my blocking, everything goes out the window and you have to redo everything. So yeah, it happens all day long. Like your perfect plans go to, or like you're shooting and the actress, their undergarments didn't arrive, or, the dog, every single day there's an emergency and a reason why your perfect thing didn't work out. So that's part of that part of being a good manager, and knowing how to problem solve. Like being a problem solver is one of my favorite things in the world. Like, because not only is it just me that's solving that problem, it's 5 of the best heads in the business sitting around. Like it's my ADs trying to solve that problem, my producers trying to solve that. Everybody is also working with you as a team to solve that problem and give you options on how we're going to make that day. So even though it might seem like this is it's your problem, or how are you ever going to make your day because of that? Now that the generator broke down, or you're working and you're filming in Atlanta, and every grip now has an app on their phone, because if there's lightning within 5 miles, they stop filming. And so if they're like, a grip's like, oh, lightning struck 5 miles away. And you're like, oh, now we have to hold for 20 minutes until we get a clear, whatever. Every day these things happen. So that's part of like your skill of being a good director, is problem solving, staying calm in a crisis, and coming up with solutions, because the person at home doesn't know all those problems. They don't know. It's not like it comes with a disclaimer. Well, this would have been a great scene if the lightning didn't come, or if we didn't lose our original location. Or every day you have all of that. And so it's not just like, oh man, it was that one thing. Every day.
Were there any experiences of where something might not have turned out the way that it was planned, but actually turned out better? Something that we like to call happy accidents?
I mean, I feel like that's always how it is in a movie or TV show, that they're all, because in the end, you get it. And like, I really always feel that way a lot with casting. Is like, you have this idea of this person you had in mind to do it. And then, and you realize like, it's this fate karma, that it's not just your fate and your karma, it's everybody else's as well. It's like, so it's like, if it's whoever's supposed to play that role is going to be on set that day, showing up for work. And it doesn't matter what you thought or who you thought or anything like that. The person that's supposed to do that is actually the person that ends up doing it. Like, that's the way it just goes. That location that I lost, you have to have the faith that it's because the right thing is going to happen, and you make that work the right way. So you have to accept that it all just loads up like that. You just have to realize that is the way it's supposed to go. And your job is to make that happen, and continue that process, because yeah, it has to be funny. I'm trying to think of anything that was like, oh my God. And then I just feel like every day is filled with all those moments of like,
every day is just a happy accident.
Every day is a happy accident. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we had to do that. And now it turned into that. It's always like that.
Yeah, it's funny when you say that. Thinking back of conversations I've had with other people on like their projects, like, oh yeah, this didn't work out, but actually it turned out really well. And you hear that all the time.
It does. And so as a director, I'm in the mindset that no matter what, it's going to turn out really well. Like I operate not from like, oh no, woe is me. It's always the bad thing that happens. I work from the mindset of like, this is going to be amazing. We're going to make it amazing. This is going to be the best episode. Like, I am at full faith. Like, this is going to be the best. We're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. And we're going to have a great time while we do it, because that attitude is going to be really important while we get through it. So, yeah, so it's all happy accidents, and they all work out of like, what? I thought she should have worn this. And I'm so happy that the record, whatever, the network said, you know what, we think she should wear a sweatshirt. And then you look back and you're like, thank God we put the sweatshirt on. That was the way it should have looked. So and so you have to always sometimes figure out like what are you fighting? Like make sure that if you're fighting for something, what are you fighting for? And that's really valid, because sometimes you might be fighting for something that you thought was the right solution, but you didn't realize that the thing that's coming through naturally is actually the right. Don't try to paddle upstream,
Definitely. Yeah. Choose your battles.
Choose your battle. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, from an overall challenging standpoint, which of your projects would you say was the most challenging and why?
Challenging. I mean, I feel like it's a challenge. That's definitely not easy. I don't know about what's the most challenging, because in the end, like, they're all super challenging. Like, and I think about my last few jobs, like I did a big musical for Netflix called 13 the Musical, and it starred 13-year-olds. And so I really hired 13-year-olds. I wanted it to be children, because I know that if I hired a 15-year-old, 1 week they could look like a 13-year-old, and then the next week they look like a 15-year-old. So I was like, and I couldn't be like, well, I hired them, they looked young. And it's like, you know what? They just hit puberty last weekend. Like something happened and you're like, oh my God, they really look 15 now. So, and that gave the challenges of working with children, but it could be a challenge. It was also a benefit. I had 10-hour days. So I was like, oh, this is so nice having 10-hour days. It was also a challenge that I had to work in COVID. Working in a COVID situation was super challenging. Like everybody's wearing masks, everybody's wearing visors. At a certain point, they had to wrap plastic all around me because some people on the crew were getting COVID. And if they got close to me, I could get COVID. So they wrapped me. I basically could have no human contact. I couldn't have anybody within 10 feet from me. And so like, that's a challenge because it's like a whatever. And then I got a challenge because I was like, when you work with children, they have to see your face. I can't direct a child like this, and that's all they could see because I've got a mask on, a visor, a thing, and whatever. So I had to get special permission that while I was directing these children, I could remove my mask so they could watch my face and I could give them direction. So that was a challenge. I know they were like, could you wear a mask with one of those see-through things? I'm like, no, it's like a horror movie. I'll scare these children with that. So, I feel like there's challenges that that we're in crazy going through working under a pandemic, but those are unusual challenges. Those aren't normal. I've worked with really hard to work with actors that could be a challenge, but then you turn it around and all of a sudden now they're the best person in the world to work with because you built trust with them. And so I love challenges. I feel like that's my specialty, is because a challenge is, again, it's problem solving. And I'd love to figure out a way to make a solution, and try to figure out how can I get that performance? How can I get it?
Excellent. Well, Tamra, thank you so much. Those are all the questions we have for you today. To leave off, do you have any general tips or advice for someone looking into becoming a director? Maybe the path to take, film schools, recommendations?
I mean, I feel like it's always changing, and every decade it's going to change again. I feel like there's always a path. The more you learn, so like going to film school or making films on your own, whether I was lucky that I came up during music video days, so that gave me a lot of experience, but there's so many young people that are growing up nowadays where they have TikTok or they have, YouTube, where they can make shows of their own and post them and start to build your skills. The more experience you have, the better able you're going to be to problem solve. because you're always going to have these crazy challenges when you're working. So the more experience you have, the more you're like, oh my God, this happened on this other show, and that's how I got out of it. So having the experience, even if you're just making short films with your family members, you're getting experience. So the more, if you want to be a director, get a camera in your hand, start telling stories, use the camera to tell stories. So for sure, those skills are hugely important. And knowing that, that there's no way that anybody's going to tell you, if you do this, this, and this is going to make it. You have to have those skills, tell those stories, and then show them to people and find out whether or not you have those skills. You're talented. Can you tell stories? Do people like what you're saying? Do you have a unique perspective? Do you like doing it? Sometimes people are like, I want to be a director. And then all of a sudden they get in that seat and they realize like, oh, I never want to be here again. I hate this. This is so much pressure. I don't like it. My niece wanted to be in the wardrobe department, and I gave her an internship in the wardrobe department. She was there for like 2 weeks, and she was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, thank God you didn't spend your whole college career in the and like you get to the wardrobe department, you're like, this is a nightmare. I don't want to be on this. Or you might be like, I've always wanted to do that, and you'll do everything to get there. So find your own path. You got to find that, and also know that there's nobody that could tell you you're a director other than you. That you're the only person that can say you're a director, in the same way that you also are the only person that should be able to tell yourself that you're not a director. That's something that you should reserve for yourself. So as a girl growing up, and everybody's going to say no to me, and I understand that. Like, yeah, people say no all the time. I know it's so hard, but that no, I never said no. I never said, Tamra, no, you're not a director. I kept saying like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I am a director. And so that no, your no only inspired me to prove you wrong. So some people hear no and they're like, oh, they said no. And they're like, they didn't like me, or they take it personal. Like they didn't like my script. But Hollywood's job, that's their job. They say no. If they say no, that means they don't have to do anything. They can go pick up the call and do their next call. The moment they say yes, now they have to work. So it's so easy to say no. And it's so easy to, and people just keep saying no to you. And don't lose your day job, whatever, like make sure you have skills in other areas so that you can survive and support yourself or whoever you need to support. But don't let Hollywood or anybody tell you no unless you've decided that, because you're the only person that should be in control of your artistic survival.
Well, Tamara, thank you so much for your time. Those are all the questions we have for you today. You've given us so much great information to work with.
Thank you.
And if you're looking for more interviews or deep dives into the StudioBinder software, be sure to like and subscribe to be notified when new videos are added. I'm Brandon with StudioBinder Academy. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.